Hey, what is up, guys? It's your boy Seventh here, back with another video. And today I got a special guest here with me, FPS Rec. Say hello to the people.
What's going on?
And today we are reviewing The Last of Us HBO show. Now, FPS got something to say before we start.
So I just want to preface this by saying that Seventh and I are fans of the first game. We played the first game a bunch of times, and we thoroughly enjoyed the story. So, we're going in with an open mind, but we do have a bias towards the game and the story that the game told. So just want to throw that out there.
And with that, here we go. We are reviewing episode 1 that dropped on Monday. We got into it a little late, but nevertheless, me and my brethren here just sat down and watched an hour, 20 minutes. And what you're going to hear from us is our raw thoughts and opinions on it. And I'm going to keep it a buck with you guys. We actually recorded a video before, an hour long, but the audio didn't save. So we've been having troubles, but now we should be A-okay. So you guys going to hear our raw thoughts and opinions on this. It's going to be a little shortened because the last recording was about an hour, but we're going to shorten things down and keep focus. So, all right. First things first. The opening scene. FES, go ahead. Tell me how you felt about the opening scene with the doctors talking about the fungal virus.
I enjoyed the opening scene. As you said, they were just giving a little introduction into the world that we'll be diving into. They mostly spoke on viruses, bacteria, but also one of the scientists focused in on fungi and, what fungi would do to a human body, in case, the planet gets warmer and they're able to adapt to a higher temperature, how that could lead to, a transmission into a human host, which is basically what The Last of Us is. But I thought that was a good introduction to the show to add that little, segment, which is pretty cool.
Same. I like how it sets up the world. It sets up everything, before they throw everything at us. So I did like how the demeanor of the doctor or the interviewer, he was interviewing one of the biologists, and, his demeanor changed once he realized this could be real serious. And fast forward to 2003, and guess what happens? So after that scene, the little intro goes off. We had the music, which I enjoyed. They kept the same soundtrack, which is A+ in my books. Then the scene to Sarah in her bedroom sleeping. Now, we wrote a couple of things down. I'm gonna do it this way. I'm gonna just tell you guys how I feel first about the show entirely, and then my boy FES is gonna go. Well, I'm gonna talk about a couple things. Then FES, you could just piggyback off of it. So,
yeah.
In the beginning, we see Sarah. She wakes up. We see Joel. They're having breakfast, and then we see Tommy come in, and right off the bat, I don't like the casting for Tommy. I'm just going to say that right then and there. I wish they could have got somebody else. I know people are going to say, why does the casting matter? Why does the race swap matters? It matters because they race swapped them in the beginning in the first place. To me, it also depends on the acting chops. Like, I felt like they just swapped the characters out, just for the sake of diversity. But, Tommy, he's all right. But, Tommy's a Mexican also, and nothing wrong with that. I love everybody, but I just see the things with also Sarah. She, her being, a person of color, certain characters being changed around, things like that. But in the first couple scenes, it's fine. They're having dinner. Well, I said dinner, breakfast. Right. I apologize, and they keep on track. But how do you feel about it, FS?
We're going into it with the source material of the game, and the who the characters were, and yeah, they had the the changing of actors, and they didn't really keep that 1-to-1. They wanted a more diverse casting, which it is what it is. Like, I'm not gonna complain about it. I'm just gonna watch it for what it is, and it doesn't really matter about um, the casting in the regards to keeping the characters how they were in the game, but more so, do the characters bring the talent to capture Joel or capture Sarah and so on. And yeah,
Yeah, do they emulate that character's vibe and personality,
yeah. So the only thing that I would say is that what caught me off guard was probably the actress for Sarah. She was kind of she was a little bit older than the Sarah in the game, but that was only a nitpick. I thought
Yeah, because
Sarah
Sarah in
should
the
have
game is a little bit younger. She looked like she's in her mid-teens here.
early teens. I would say early, getting to mid. But other than that, that's the only nitpick of the show so far.
So continuing from them having breakfast, Sarah, it plays out. Sarah has to go to school, um, and what caught me off guard was, she wants to get Joel's watch fixed, but she goes into Joel's room while they're downstairs and takes money out of his pocket to go fix his watch. To me, I know that's not really a big thing to me. I just feel like that just didn't make sense. You're using your own dad's money to get his stuff fixed. Yeah, you're doing him a favor, but at the same time, you're also costing him. Just something small that I just thought it was kind of like dumb. So I've noticed, and I want to say this now because we're gonna keep this short. We're not gonna go scene by scene. We're just telling you guys how we really feel about certain things. I've noticed, a lot of deviation. Not everything is 1-to-1, and yes, that's fine, and I'm not complaining about that. But I felt like certain things should have been 1-to-1, or it just played out differently that they played out here. The biggest thing we can talk about that was a deviation is the spores. So spores, as far as we know of, because it's episode 1, the spores aren't here. They're replaced by tendrils. So there's no gas mask. There's no use of gas mask. That's a big deviation from what was given to us in the game. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, the thing with the spores, like, or I understand the thing with the spores, not being in the game, especially or in the show, especially later on, in a certain scene where you would think if they did implement it, then um, they would have gotten infected if they didn't have a mask on or whatnot. But I guess that they made that change, and I just didn't understand what the deal was with the tendrils. Maybe they'll bring it up later on and why it was so important to have that as the change, because if anything, it could just be like how it is in Resident Evil, where you just get bit and that's how you turn. But the tendrils, it has to play a role in the show, I'm guessing, for them to do that instead of just the regular biting someone. Even like the runners in the game, the runners will bite you. You don't need to have to be exposed to the spores. um but we'll see what they do with that. It's just the first episode. They did show it once only. We'll see how it goes from here.
Okay. Yeah. So me personally, I just want to know why. That's like a big deviation, like from the lore and stuff. But like you said, we'll figure out why. So moving on, the story continues. Sarah gets dropped off to school. She's in school. She's kind of noticing things aren't right. She's like sensing things. She sees things around, see the way people are acting, and she senses something's not right. She goes, after school is done, she goes and gets the watch fixed. She gets dropped off. She goes into the watch store, and in the background, there's the news playing. Um, while she's getting her dad's Joel's watch fixed in the store, um, the watchmaker's wife comes out and hurries them along to leave. So we get a little backstory of what Sarah was doing on how the watch got fixed. So I'm not really mad at it. There's a lot of deviation and a lot of filler in certain areas to give context. So okay, what this character was doing at that time, which is fine, but sometimes things didn't make sense. But after that, after she got the watch fixed, she goes home. And what I noticed is when before she went into the store that there was people on the streets, but when she comes out, everybody's just gone. That was something like a nice touch, but it felt like it was kind of too quick that people just cleared the streets already. It felt like how did they get the news? One thing I do want to talk about, and I know I'm kind of like all over the place, but I'm just talking about certain things about this show that I feel that were kind of wrong. um, I've talked to you about this about FPS, but the budget. I feel like the budget for this show is like very low, and the choreography is not really on point. There's sometimes certain cuts, certain like There's a lot of cuts. I noticed that like there's a lot of cuts in the action, certain action scenes. Um, the cinematography or the court, both the cinematography and the choreography of whenever something's happening in the background, you see the background characters. It feels fake. Like you can see that like they're acting, but they're not like acting like acting like it's real, but they're like acting. If you get what I'm saying, so I feel like the quality of the CGI is kind of low in certain areas, and that's like a real big deal for me, especially coming from Naughty Dog and this is coming from Sony and HBO. I just felt like certain scenes and areas um felt off.
Yeah, I felt that when it was the pickup scene when they're all in the pickup truck and they're trying to head out of town. When it was moving, I guess when the truck was swerving or whatnot, like it kind of felt blurry. And I won't lie to you that it kind of like made my head feel weird. Just looking at it, I guess it messed with my vision. But that's the only thing that I would really say about that. I didn't really notice too much of the cinematography and like how they're doing the cuts. Like I guess that's how they chose to do it. But other than that, not really having a problem with it.
Okay. So scene continues. She gets the she gets the watch. So she goes back home, but she heads stop to her neighbor house, an older couple, and one of them is sick. It's a sick old lady. She's in a wheelchair. There's a little scene where she's grabbing a movie, and you can see the old lady kind of like twitch in the background, giving off the sign that something's not right with her. But like it seemed like she was just infected out of nowhere. um so she goes outside, she sees jets overhead passing by, and she's trying to figure out what's going on. She notices something is wrong, but she just kind of like shrugs it off and goes home. Now the scene where they're home is a one for one, sort of like the scene when Joel finally gets home and he sees Sarah on the couch sleeping. She gives her the present of the watch being fixed. So that's the same. I'll give them that. Those are minor differences in the dialogue, but that's fine. That scene was fine. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, it was a one for one. Mostly, the only thing that changed was right after that scene when Joel gets a call from Tommy saying he's in jail, or he got in jail.
Yes, Tommy
He
being in jail.
he got in a fight because someone was acting weird and he just had to lay him out. So that's obviously something that's new. Some backstory, I guess, as to
Yeah.
why Joel wasn't at home when Sarah woke up. She wakes up and she goes down looking for Joel, but she can't find him. And
Okay, I wouldn't say it's new. Well, it is new, but it's also a deviation. I'm gonna allow it because I can't. I'm not saying like I'm a authority over it. What I'm saying is, I'm letting it slide because it threw me off. They're like Tommy in jail. That's not what happened in the game. Tommy was looking for Joel. Calling him, asking what Joel was. Joel was off doing something else, not worried about Tommy. Tommy was the one trying to find Joel. So it was a big difference. And this is like when I say it, it's like filling in certain things of what characters was doing, but also deviating, you know?
Yeah, creating like a new storyline instead of Joel being out probably by the neighbor's house or something, and that's why Tommy was looking for him in the game and calling him. But this one, like he went to go look for Tommy in the jail and bail him out, and then that's when they got home and got Sarah. Um, but yeah, I'm skipping ahead a little bit. But after that scene, that's when Sarah wakes up looking for Joel. She can't find him. She sees the neighbor's dog kind of scratching at the door, and she goes outside to see what's up. And she tries to take the dog back home, but the dog doesn't want to and runs away. And that's when she goes over to the neighbor's house, and that's when she finds the neighbors in the kitchen, laying in their own pool of blood. Well, you have one still living, saying to help me, and the wife is on the floor being food for the old grandma that's infected. And that's when we get our first look at the tendrils, and we see what the little squids coming out their mouth looks like. And
yeah, so that whole scene also is also another big deviation from the story of what happened. What happened was in the game, for those who haven't played the game, and Sarah woke up and didn't see her dad, and she went downstairs looking for him. She found the phone, realized Uncle Tommy was looking for them, and then Joel burst in through the after walking around. Sarah walks around. Joel bursts in through the back door living room and says, the neighbors are sick. Stay away from the windows. Then we see one of the infected neighbors burst through the window and attack, and then that's when Joel kills the first infected. But in the show, it's totally different. Like you said, she's at the neighbor's house. She goes out, and then she gets attacked and it runs out, and then Joel and Tommy appear, and then Joel, instead of shooting the infected, he hits the older lady with a wrench. So there's big deviations here. The same outcome. They end up leaving in the truck. And that the next scene is also a 1-for-1, and I'll give them credit for that. That was 1-for-1. The truck scene of them leaving was good, but that was also a big deviation. And it's like I'm thinking in my head like, why would she go over there? I get it, she was with the dog, but like
I mean I would say like they're probably real close with the neighbors. That's why like that's just something different from the show and the game, that she's close with them, and that's why she goes over and does her homework there, and maybe she gets looked after when her dad's not home, and maybe she just wanted to check up on him and see what was going on.
Yeah. So then the next scene, like I said, is the 1-for-1 driving scene where they're escaping. They pass by that couple that was on the road. They pass in the highways area, and then they get to the city. And this is where I said, and this is the problem, this area, because this was an iconic moment in the game. I thought they would have done a 1-for-1, like really dramatic. This scene was over dramatic. I wanted it to be dramatic to the point like, yo, this is serious, tensions in the air. But when Tommy gets to the city and he has to slow down because people are running in the street in front of them and people are blocking the way, and Joel's like, go through, and Tommy's like, I can't. There's people. Like, I was noticing the background extras. I don't know. I can't shut my mind off. Sometimes I'm like a real critical thinker when I watch movies and shows. I'm trying to make sure everything's perfect. But I saw the extras in the background, the way they were moving and running. They were acting, but they weren't putting their 100%. Like, it felt like a cheap TV show. And then, so after Joel and them kept passing through the city, another deviation happens, and this is a big one that I think to me is just over dramatic and kind of stupid. Instead of Joel, Tommy's car, and all of them flipping over, getting hit by another car, they do a fake out. In the game, the car flips over by being hit by another car, but in the show, an airplane crashes down and a random part manages to catch up to Joe and Tommy and just whack the car on its side. To me, I felt that was kind of goofy and a little over dramatic.
Honestly, I'm watching that very scene right now, and when I first saw it, it didn't even look like it hit the car. It looked like it hit one of the shops that they were driving by, and I guess it kind of ricocheted from the shop onto the car. But I just don't see how that would like cause such an impact that they flipped over and all.
Yeah, because the amount of force when it hit the building first would have slowed that down.
Yeah,
The most it would have done was probably break the window and dented the side of the door. But no, it flipped the whole car over. So
yeah,
that I felt like the budget and the choreography wasn't on point. I'm when you watch it right now, when Tommy is backing up, you can see the infected on the ground with somebody, right, biting somebody. But when Tommy backs up, the infected right at that moment decides to like move out the way.
yeah.
And this is gonna be nitpicky, but that's what I meant when it goes back into the budget. Like, in a real scenario or a scenario like that, bodies would have been run over. I realized Tommy didn't run over nobody at all. Like, even the bodies that was on the street, they all manages to roll out underneath the way. I feel
Yeah.
like small details like that, like the car being, hitting the bodies and it just bumping. The car bumps up because it's hitting bodies. But no, the actors just moved out the way. The infected just took his meal and just rolled out the way at the same time Tommy was backing up. And it's just like small things like that I noticed. And
This
the infected
movie.
attacking humans, it kind of looked like they were like, "Oh, give me a hug," like stuff like that. I know I'm being nitpicky, but like it also goes to this because like I said, people have been praising this like this is the next coming of Jesus. This is HBO, this is Sony, this is Naughty Dog. The money should be there, the CGI should be there. The plane falling down, look at a little to me, but
Yeah, and after that scene is when you have a police car hit the back of their flipped over car, and it kind of pins. Both the cars are blocking the alleyway that Joel and Sarah are in, and Tommy can't get to them. That's another change, that instead of Tommy holding the door in the bar and trying to let Joel and Sarah escape while he holds off the infected, they changed this. So now it's just Joel and Sarah in the alleyway, and Tommy can't get to them. And after that, that's when they do kind of do a little one for one with infected running after Joel and Sarah, and they end up in a bar or trying to
yeah, the chase scene.
yeah, get through the bar, and they manage to get out, and that's when we see the infected get shot by the military personnel.
Yeah, by Fedra, I think.
No, I think that was the army. That was
Oh
the
yeah,
army.
that was the regular army. Fedra
Yeah.
came after. Yeah. So yeah, that I'll also give that to them. They also did it 1-for-1, but I have an issue again with the casting. The guy who plays Joel, Pedro Pascal, he don't feel like a Joel. He don't give off a Joel personality. And when they did the 1-for-1 scene where he gets shot while holding Sarah and Sarah dies, I didn't feel no emotional weight to it. It might be due to the fact that I saw it coming, but I'm gonna also deny that because the next morning, or because I saw this last night and I also watched it again today, with FPS. But when I played through the game again this morning, the first 15 minutes, I got goosebumps when I saw Sarah die in the video game because the cinematography in the game, the way Joel, the actor, the voice acting, like it felt more like that, more effort was given in the game. Here he's just like baby girl and then you got Tommy off in the cut looking like a retard, just standing there just like, Joe, look. Now granted Tommy did the same thing, but it felt with more urgency. Tommy actually, like, he cared. Tommy here is just like, Joe, look. And it's just weird. Like, for me, what I would have done differently in this scene, I would have Tommy and Joel hover over Sarah it could have been a deviation, but it would have been a better deviation where it was more emotional weight and give something Tommy to do. Because when you realize it, if you realize it, Tommy's just standing there, bro. He's not doing anything, not trying to help, not trying to put pressure on the wound. Let's get her up. You know, it would have been better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel what you mean. Like, that is not more impactful of like the death scene for Sarah. I feel like the actress who's played Sarah, she sold it with the being hurt and her facial expressions. I feel like she sold it, but for Pedro Pascal's Joel, like you know he didn't really sell it enough for me. I guess maybe because they weren't doing close-ups of Joel's face, and you know I see what you meant with Tommy. Like, yeah, he was just standing there, just looking on. Like, I think, as you said, it would have been a more impactful moment if they're both trying to help Sarah, and because at the end of the day, that's his niece. I'm guessing, like that he's Sarah's uncle. Like, she means something to you. Just you can't just like be heartless and stand there, just looking on. But yeah, I agree with you there that since we're coming from the game and we're watching the show, like we know who Joel and Sarah are. Like I know Pedro Pascal is Joel, but I just see him as Joel. I don't feel like that's Joel. Like he doesn't fully embody the performance that Troy Baker gave.
Mm-hmm.
Where you feel more impactful in that scene from the video game.
Okay. Well, moving on to the next scene. The next scene cuts 20 years later. We see a random child walking in a no man's land, and it's Boston in 2023. Now, also, yeah, now that I'm looking at this, you realize they changed the dates, right? They moved it up to 2023 instead of 2013.
Yeah, they did that. That's when the show is coming out, this year, 2023. So I guess they wanted to do it from 2003, 20 years later. So it'd be our year now. So, I guess that's a little fourth wall break type deal. Yeah.
So we see a shot of Boston. And like I said, going back to the budget thing, the CGI for the sanctuary of Boston, or homeland, or homestead, if you would call it, it just looks like something you will see on, what's that channel on, what's it called, Sci-Fi?
Yeah.
It's like something you will see on Sci-Fi TV. They're like very low budget. It looks like, I want to see, they were touting this as the best thing ever. And I want to say this, I'm not hating on this right now, because it was decent. The show is decent, I give it that. But they were touting it as the best thing ever, so I expect everything to be on point. I want to see Marvel level of CGI, like good quality CGI, if you're gonna do that. So
even if it's not that, just look at the Walking Dead. The Walking Dead, when you're watching it, it actually, as I'm guessing, they probably use like real location, and it looks, like it doesn't look like you're looking at CGI, or it doesn't look like,
Yeah, because they also use real props too.
They use that's what I'm saying, like real cities, or like they'll shoot like on set that has like that type of environment that they're going for. But as I'm watching now, because I have the video up, the first episode, I see what you meant, where they did have like the scene of the kid walking, and you can see in the distance, like a bigger, I guess, the city of Boston, but it kind of did look like it was on a CGI.
I felt like they shot some of these in the studio, like in the studio lot in Hollywood, where they do things like that. I felt like they shot some of these scenes in the studio and had green screen behind it.
Yeah.
So we see Boston. We see a kid walking. He goes to the front, makes it to the front gates of the checkpoint, passes out. Fedra picks him up, brings him inside, and what we see here is a pretty messed up scene. They check, well, not messed up, I get it in a sense, because they bring the kid in, but we see the kid get strapped to a wheelchair, and he's strapped on. He can't move. And there's this federal guard talking to him, telling him everything's gonna be okay. You're gonna be safe. You're gonna be all right. If people say these to you, you're not gonna be all right. You're not gonna be safe.
Some,
So they check his they check his vitals, and he comes back red, which is positive.
well, infected.
The first time I saw this, I had got it confused. I thought red means negative and green means positive, but it's backwards. Red means positive, green means negative. So he came back red, and the one of the guards gave a look to the other guard, and they realized, he's infected because he had a little bite mark on his knee. They gave him a shot. We cut to the next scene, and it's of Tess. And I'm gonna say this right now. I'm gonna say this for one more person too. The actor they got for Tess is ugly. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I wanted to see like the original, like somebody that looked close to the original test model in the PS3, PS4 remastered version of The Last of Us. Even the test model in the new game, in the newer updated remaster of Last of Us, looks ugly. So not, I know people gonna say, "Oh my god, you're being rude and offensive," bro. It just throws me off. So we see Tess and Joel burning bodies in the town square. Um, a thing I will give to I'll give to Neil and his team. They set up Boston nice. The inside where you can actually see the city is not CGI, so you see people doing work. They're getting ration cards. You got snipers on the roof, so they're setting up the world perfectly to show you that the inside of these sanctuaries is not everything cranked up to be. It's like prison, most likely. Basically, it's like prison. So we see Joel and Tess burning bodies in the town square, and then boom, we see a kid's body, but Tess doesn't want to touch it because it's a kid. Joel takes the kid's body, and from what we see is the same kid because he has the same shoes on and pants, and just Joel just picks him up and just dumps him in the fire without a care in the world. How do you feel about that, Fias?
Yeah, you spoke to me about that earlier about making Joel seem heartless, I guess, in a sense, because after what he lost Sarah, that he just has no emotion or no feeling, so he just took the body of the kid, and just tossed him in the fire. So, yeah, I don't know what they're. I can't say I don't know what they're going for, but I guess they're trying to make Joel seem, like he's been through it. The 20 years hasn't been easy, so I guess that's what they're going for.
To me, like I said before, I feel like it's kind of like low-key character assassination, and I know, and there's other ways you could show Joel being tough and a survivor. Throughout the 20 years, we know this in the game. He's tough and gruff, but to say Joel will just look at a kid's body and just take him and just toss him like that, I would say no. And I know what's going on here, but that's a conversation for another time. But I know what's going on with Joel's character, because this Joel don't feel like the Joel we have in the game. He doesn't have that bravado, that energy. He's doing things, just to do it, because he got to survive. But it's like he's different. I don't know if they're going for a different portrayal of Joel, but I don't know. To me, this Joel feels different. But
What they could have done with that scene is sort of have like a flashback moment of him, just looking at the body and then thinking about Sarah, just to see that he's still, it's been 20 years, but I'm sure like that still is the front of his mind. I think that would have worked well, if you had a flashback of Sarah, sometime that he had with Sarah, and then maybe, what had happened at the end, like how we just saw. And then I guess, him feeling that emotion and then just having to, take the body of the kid and put it in the fire. And then, I think that would have worked a little bit better instead of just him looking at the kid and just tossing him in there. But that's just me.
Well, so after that, we cut to a shot and see, they're showing more of Boston. We cut to a shot of Joel going to a town square. We see people getting hanged. It's setting up that this place is, you'll get killed for anything. You leave the quarantine zone, you'll get hanged and tried. So we see that Joe goes off and sees a guard, goes off and does a side deal, gets some ration cards, gives the guards some pills, and gets some cigarettes. He's asking for about a battery and a car, so he can go outside the wall. And then after that scene, he goes to a quartermaster, and this is another big deviation. So Joel wants to leave the quarantine zone to find Tommy because it's been about 3 weeks. Now, this is another big deviation. Joel only leaves the quarantine zone because he is forced upon with Ellie because of Marlene. And then and once he leaves the quarantine zone, that's when he wants to find Tommy so Tommy could take Ellie off of his hands because Tommy knows the Fireflies. But this changes everything. Like, now Joel is worried about Tommy and he wants to look for him. So this is his reasoning for leaving the quarantine zone. So I really don't know why they went this route. I see no need for this route. It just makes everything. I get it. They're trying to give him a reason or why he's leaving. Oh, and then boom, Ellie manages to tag along because he's leaving already to go find his brother. But your brother is the one that's with the Fireflies. So I don't know. To me, it just seemed convoluted for him to do that.
Yeah, that must have been a change that later on we're going to see why they did that. Why they decided to change the pacing of it. Like you said, that Joel initially even thought about leaving the quarantine zone because they needed their supplies, they needed their weapons back from Marlene. And now I guess since they changed the whole story with Robert and what Robert was pushing and this whole situation, now we're seeing that Joel is leaving the quarantine zone or needs to leave and have the supplies that he needs, like a car battery, to go see his brother. So we'll see what they did with that change and why they decided to do that. But yeah, for some reason it didn't make any sense because I just don't know.
So the next scene, couple scenes, is another big deviation. It cuts to Tess being in a room with 3 other guys. One of them is Robert, and 2 are his goons. They beat up Tess, which happened in the game. Tess did run into Robert's goon, and they beat her up. But this conversation right here never happened in the game. When Robert scammed Tess and Joel in the game, Tess and Joel went to go try to find Robert to get back their supplies. And when they caught up to him, they broke his arm, they beat him, and they had killed him. And then Marlene appeared and was like, damn, you guys killed Robert, I needed him. Here, however, things have changed. Joel and Tess don't walk to a gate, and the gate gets blown up, and that's when Fireflies attack. Here, when Tess is talking to Robert, all of a sudden, mid-conversation, wall blows up. It's a Firefly attack. Fedra and Firefly are going at it. The 2 goons are killed, but Robert manages to escape. And Tess runs out, gets caught in a crossfire, but then realizes she can't do anything, puts her hands up, but still gets beat up by Fedra, and they take her away. I felt like this change was very unnecessary because then it really changes things on later on, which we're going to talk about. But let's talk about this right now. So how do you feel about this?
At this situation, this meeting, we never saw it in the game. Like you said, that Tess did get beat up by Robert's goons, but this is probably like a backstory or something that we didn't see in the game. Until later on when Joel and Tess meet up, and that's when they go after Robert for the weapons that that he has that they need back. But this was just probably something that we didn't see, or it's just an addition in the show to just fill up some holes, I guess. But like we said, they are changing some stuff. So I guess this was just, something the show decided to go with, because, Robert's not peddling guns anymore. This time is a car battery, or batteries that, money and a battery that Tess needed, which Robert was trying to sell to someone else. But, they made that change in the show. Yeah.
Yeah. So, hey, it is a deviation. They doing filler things. I get it in some points. Some other times I feel like it just doesn't work, and you're just changing it for the sake of changing it. But moving on. So that happens after Tess is captured. Hold on one second here. Oh yes. So yes, the next scene, it cuts to Ellie, aka right now in this scene, she's known as Victoria. So she's hiding her name from her captor. She's been caught by the Fireflies, and they're holding her captive. I'm also gonna say this. Y'all can say I'm being mean. Y'all can say I'm being an asshole. It is what it is. The chick who plays Ellie is ugly. She looked like Frankenstein. You're telling me Hollywood could not get another little Caucasian little girl that looks like the girl in the game to play Ellie? And her acting, I feel like this girl's acting is not there. Her acting is not there. Like she's trying too hard. I don't know, man. It's not giving me Ellie vibes. Ellie was like a dickhead the first time, we first saw her, but she was likable. This Ellie is just like I don't know. I can't, man. How do you feel, FPS, about it?
I mean, they did their character changes. That's just what we got. Like, yeah, I guess casting was a big issue when we first learned who would be, reprising these roles, I guess I should say. But that's just who we have at the moment. I don't know. For me, the Joel and Ellie that I pictured is Hugh Jackman and the girl that played Laura in Logan. Like, that's Logan to me would be like
that's what I'm saying.
The
like
movie
Logan
version
felt like Last of Us story.
Yeah, that's the movie version of The Last of Us, to be honest. Like, that's who should have been these characters, in my opinion.
What a missed opportunity. But anyway, cuts to the next scene after, Ellie's dealing with her captors. They still have her locked up after giving her a couple of tests. That scene is okay, I guess. Cuts to Joel talking to the quartermaster, trying to get a map, see where Tommy's at, asks where Tommy's at, gives him the cigarettes that he got earlier from the guard. Gets the information from Tommy. Then this next scene, I like it. I like it very much. I'll give them that. The next scene, it cuts to Joel in his little hideout, drinking, planning things out, and it plays the multiplayer theme from Factions. So when I saw that, it was put a little smile on my face. So I'll give them that. That scene was nice. So I liked that one.
Yeah, same here. Like, I had a smile on my face just watching this little I guess this little bit of the show. Yeah, it was good. I liked it.
So, cut to the next scene. We see Joel in bed. There was this little half scene where we don't know if it was a flashback or some type of memory Joel was having. We see Tess. We don't know if it was Tess or some random chick, but some random chicks hop into bed. But it looked like it was Tess, and then next scene it cuts to Tess being in the kitchen. It might be her, but that scene was just weird. It just added no context. Like, are Tess and Joel lovers? Because the way she came up behind him, came up and snuggled the man. I'm like, whoa, okay. So Joel sees Tess, wakes up, sees that she's been beaten. She gives Joel the information of what happened. So, they're following the story. Right here, they're gonna go look for Robert again. To get payback, because she really wants to kill Robert, even though she said she wouldn't kill Robert in that conversation in the room, that she would let bygones be bygones. But obviously she was lying, and she was upset because Robert sold their car battery and kind of screwed them over. So Joel. Hold on, give me 1 second. Just trying to fast forward here. Come on, no. So fast forward. Joel and Ellie. I said Ellie. Joel and Tess are still looking for Robert. They take their backpacks. They go underground, and it cuts to Marlene. So we see Marlene, and for Marlene, I gotta say the casting is fine for Marlene. Is damn near almost perfect. She looked damn near the same, damn near almost talked the same, have the same damn attitude. So Marlene casting was A1. It was nice. She's the leader of the Fireflies. She goes in, she talks to Ellie, she give Ellie back her knife. And she talks to Ellie. Another deviation we have here is Ellie not knowing Marlene, but Marlene knowing Ellie. In the game, Ellie and Marlene know each other. Marlene takes care of Ellie when Ellie when Ellie parents dies. So she's been raising Ellie. She took care of her. But here they made it seem like she doesn't know Marlene. Marlene just knows Ellie because of a baby, and she put her in a Fedra camp and left her there until Ellie escaped and then got bit outside the walls. So a little big deviation from the game.
Yeah, we were speaking about this earlier too. Like, you know, when Marlene does walk in the room and hands Ellie her backpack, and Ellie goes in there and pulls out a knife. You know, Marlene comes and sits next to her, and Ellie, you know, brandishes the knife and says, "Are you scared?" Marlene says, "No." And I don't know, just the whole demeanor of that scene, it does make it seem like, you know, Ellie's just some random girl chained up in that house, and, you know, like they don't know each other. They you know, have no idea who they are until, you know, Marlene says Ellie's name. You know, Ellie says, "Are you my mother?" Which I thought was funny.
That lady black, you white.
Yeah, so I don't know. It was confusing watching it. Like, do they know each other? Do they not? You know, like, until I guess Marlene never said, you know, "I knew your mother" or whatnot, but you know, that she put her in a Fedra school when she was young. And in that same scene is when I believe Marlene brings up Riley, which I found to be a little questionable. Like, how does Marlene know Riley? But I guess we'll find out, because if she did bring her up, you know, I don't think they're just gonna bring up someone random to the regular viewer of the show. You know, us who's played the game and Left Behind DLC.
Yeah, we know who Riley is.
We know
she's
who
probably
Riley
gonna
is.
appear later.
Yeah, so she has to appear at a later point if she was brought up. You know, so.
And my thing with that is that it's either two theories, either because they're deviating a lot. Either Riley is Marlene's daughter, or I think Riley was part of the Fireflies. I think, you know, she could be one of those. I think she wanted to join the Fireflies. She could be one of the little cadets that, you know, one of the little recruits that Marlene's even recruiting the Fireflies, even recruiting kids or whatever. But yeah, we know Riley's coming, so that's coming soon. We'll figure everything out. But most likely, my bet is that she'll probably end up being Marlene's daughter. But cut to the next scene, we see Joel and Tess underground again, back underground, you know, chugging along, trying to find Robert. And back to the point, like way in the beginning, like we said, you know, they see an infected stuck to the wall, but, you know, there's no spores. He's been there a long time, but there's no spores. They have no gas mask at all. So again, that just throws me off. That deviation, it just feels like that was an unnecessary change. Maybe they couldn't get gas masks. Like I said, the budgeting, if they couldn't do the CGI effects of the spores, did they not want to have the actors in mask all the time? Maybe an audio issue. I don't know. That to me felt like a cheap change, and I don't really agree with the tendrils, but we'll see more how they explain it. Because I want this show to also do really good world building, unlike The Last of Us 2, where we had that Rat King infected, but things weren't really explained unless you read a note. Yeah, oh, they just fused together. Like, I want them to like really show the grotesqueness of the infected. How is it really mutating? Like, things like that. Um, but yeah, that changed. So we see that. Then we see them go. Then we see Joel and Tess
They
reach a
go.
certain area. They climb up. The doors shut for their hidden pathway, and underneath the door they see blood and they can smell gunpowder. So they open up the door, and in the hallway, another deviation. This whole sequence from Marlene talking to Ellie to up to now is a deviation. We see Robert and his goons dead on the floor, and then we see Marlene, Ellie, and all them pop out. Ellie attacks Joel. Joel flips her like a pancake on the floor, points the gun at her, and then Marlene and them, they having a little discussion back to back, and then they asking Joel to cargo Ellie. But before I continue, Robert is dead.
Yeah, you didn't actually notice that until I pointed it out while we were watching. I'm like, is that Robert on the floor? And you're like, is it? Like, there's no way,
Like, he's just casually dead on the floor,
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be Tess and Joel that killed Robert. They hunt him down, beat him with the pipe, break his arm, and then kill him. And then Marlene pops up that's wounded. But I get it. They're explaining how Marlene, but it was already explained in the game how Marlene got wounded. They were fighting in the city. Fedra and Fireflies were fighting in the city, and Marlene got hit. But now they could explain it better, that she got in a gunfight with Robert and they got hit. So, that to me was just a change. I'm like, wow, okay. Like, it felt cheap. Like, Robert was supposed to have more screen time, bro. That was like the beginning of the game. We went through the wharf looking for him, fighting through his goons. Like, I thought they would expand on that more, but they like just cut Robert aside, and that was about it.
Yeah, he only had like the one major scene of the interrogation with or I guess the beating up Tess with goons. Like, that was really all we had him. And the next time we see him, he's dead. Like you just said, Marlene was supposed to be injured in a fight with Fedra in the city, and that's when she comes looking for Robert. But in this one, she got injured in a firefight with Robert and his goons. So that was a change that they made from the game and the show.
Yep. So continue on from that scene. Marlene, Joel, and Tess, they're talking about cargoing Ellie. This is also similar to a 1-for-1. Well, not the scene particularly, but the dialogue. They're talking about cargoing Ellie, and Ellie not wanting to go with Joel not wanting to do it. Tess end up convincing, so they end up doing that. So now Ellie's along with the gang. Oh, hold on, it just clicked out.
Well, what was confusing to me was why Marlene needed a battery in this one. Like, what was the reason for her, needing a battery from Robert? We know why Joel needed one, because he wanted to reach, he wanted to, I guess, build a car or a truck and head over to, see if Tommy was doing all right. But in this one, it doesn't explain why Marlene needs a battery. But in the negotiation to, cargo Ellie, Marlene tells Joel and Tess that, we can do you one better. Instead of just a battery, we can, provide you a vehicle to go see your brother, because somehow Marlene knows what Joel is looking for, or like why Joel needs a battery. Because it's her business to know, is what she said. But if Marlene already has a working vehicle or working car with her Firefly cohorts, why is she needing another one from Robert and having to get into this little scuffle that they did? So that just didn't make sense to me, but we shall see. It's just the first episode.
So, yeah. So it cuts to the next scene. Now Joel, Ellie, and Tess are in their hideout. Well, before that, there was a stupid scene. Before they make it to their hideout, they leave the scene of the area where the gunfight was at. They're walking in the rain, and the city's about to be on lockdown, curfew's about to happen. Ellie does the stupidest maneuver, which is just bad writing. There's a guard walking right by her. She has her hood up. She turns her head and pulls her hood right as she walking by the guard. Now the guard is like a stormtrooper. He doesn't notice this. Apparently he doesn't notice or he doesn't care. But I feel like that was just dumb. That was just dumb writing right there.
Yeah, when I was watching that, I was like, what is this? Like, you're just making it so obvious. Like, hey, I don't want to be seen, let me pull my hood to cover my face. And the stormtrooper, I guess, like, he's oblivious, like he's not really doing his job or whatever. But I just thought that was like really, really dumb. Like, there was no need for that. You already have the hood on. Like, are they even really looking for Ellie at this point? Like, do they know about her? Like, why is she doing all of that? So.
Yeah. So then they make it to the hideout, and then that scene plays where Ellie and Joel are having a moment where Ellie's trying to figure out Joel, and it kind of plays one for one. There's this new part where Ellie is asking Joel about his book and the codes, and she ends up one of the codes she can't figure out, but just ends up tricking him into telling him. And then that scene happens where she said, "Oh, your watch is broken." So that happens. That scene happens. The room is more or less the same. That the vibe is more or less the same. So for that, I'll give it to them. That was I'll say one for one. As the game. Then Tess comes in. It's time to go, and here we go into Stupid Town. So Tess says, "Get ready. We gotta go. Get your jacket." And they're leaving in the middle of the night, originally through the game. As they're leaving, it is raining and lightning. A guard so happens to be out on patrol. He's taking a piss. He has a flashlight on, but it's thunder and lightning. A flash before he's taking a piss in a wall in the corner somewhere. Lightning's happening. A flash goes off. You can see Joel, Ellie, and the guard, but they're far away from each other. Then it goes back to being dark. And as they're walking, the guard somehow, or Joel and Ellie somehow, didn't notice the guard was right there to the left while he had his flashlight on taking a piss. A bright ass flashlight they did not see in the corner of the eye. And then when they got caught, and this goes back to the acting, it felt like they were just like not really trying to get away. I feel like that scene was, I wouldn't say the acting, I said it was written poorly. There we go. I would say the choreography was written poorly because it just seemed like a kid you caught in a fridge trying to turn away. It seemed like that to me. That scene seemed off.
Yeah, I'm I'm looking at that very scene right now. Like, they were hiding by the corner. I don't know how they didn't survey the area and see him there. And I guess it was written so that they just miss him there and then just start walking off, and the security guard, the federal agent catches them. And that same agent so happens to be the agent that Joel is doing side deals with for rations and giving the guard pills. So they have like a little tense exchange there, trying to get the guard to just look away and not interrupt the cargo run. And that's when you have the guard checking if doing things by the book, checking if they're infected or not. You have Tess.
Yeah, just like the game. That scene happened in the game when they were caught.
She comes back, clear. Joel gets tested, he's clear, and then you see Ellie, with an anxious face because she knows that she's bitten, she's infected, and she ends up stabbing the guard in the leg, and a scuffle breaks out. Like you said earlier, when we did this before, that I guess Joel had a flashback of Joel had a flashback, with Sarah when that army guy was pointing a gun at them, and he had a flashback to that, and he didn't want that to happen again. So that's when he just attacked the federal agent here and just beat
mode.
Yeah, beat him to a pulp, and that's pretty much how it ends off. You just have a wide shot of them heading towards the city.
Yeah, they're heading towards downtown, and we know which part of the game that takes place. So overall, I would say, and before I continue, so that shot where he had a flashback of the guy, the military guy pointing the gun at him, I liked that because it made it seem like he really cared about Sarah and about children. That's what I'm saying. There's a disconnect here. Like, I understood the kid was dead already and it's just a body, but like Joel cares, bro. He just had a flashback of him and his daughter being pointed out with a gun, and he flies into a rage, you know. So it shows that he's caring. I don't know. It's just like it's kind of off putting the way they're kind of writing him.
Yeah.
But it ends with them running off into downtown, where more infected are. So they're probably going to be in a high-rise building trying to get to the capital. So overall, for this first episode, for me, I'm gonna say it was decent. It wasn't the greatest thing in the world, like everybody said it was. Like I said, I have some gripes with the acting for certain characters, the budget, the CGI, certain things just not looking right, especially Pedro not giving his full effort. But we'll see how it is during the rest of the episodes. But so far, I won't say I like it, because I have other reasons on why not to like this show, but so as far as entertainment value, I would say that this is something decent, and it got my attention just a little.
Yeah, I would say the same. I say the first episode was decent. It was pretty good for what it is. Like just introducing people who've never played the game to the world of Last of Us. So I think they did a good job. Like yeah, we're more biased towards the video game, and we know like since we played it a bunch of times how the story goes, and you could find the disconnects from the game and the show. But for someone a casual viewer who doesn't play games and this is your first intro into this series, I feel like they did a good job to you know um, do the one for one aspects. Like where it did line up in the game and the show. But they did add a few bits of context or just additional scenes that stuff that wasn't in the game, but it allowed for better context overall, I guess. But I mean that's how it is. It's not gonna be the same. They want to have some fresh material, I guess. To if we're coming in as players of the video game, we could be open to a different perspective or a different course of events. But as long as it lines up mostly, like I think it's fine.
And
If
yeah,
it
that's the
was just
point I
a,
want
it was a
to
carbon
make.
copy, if it was a carbon copy of the game, then I guess like it would turn play waste. Like the point of watching the show. If I've already played the game, I know the story. So this kind of throws a little curveball in there. Like you don't have everything the same as the game, but it's all there. Characters are there. Those moments where you get that sort of nostalgic feeling, like, hey, I recognize this from the game. That's there as well. So, I mean, there's something for everybody, I guess.
And that's what I'm saying. But at a point, I'm not asking everything to be a one for one, but at a point is like I'm scared for this show to do something that's really gonna like kind of set me over the edge. I'm not saying everything to be one for one, but if you deviate too much or too far, then we're gonna have a problem here. So far, the deviations in certain on certain scenes, it wasn't that bad, but it was questionable. Now, I'm hoping, for the rest of the episodes, nothing really too bad gets changed around. But we kind of know it is. We have a character. We didn't mention this before, but I don't want to, drag this on because we already, went through it. But Frank was mentioned in during the last 20 minutes of this episode. And Frank is a character in the game that doesn't really exist. He only exists as a skeleton that hanged himself wearing a Hawaiian shirt, and he left a note for his partner Bill. But he's been mentioned, and he's getting like a full character arc. So things like that are being changed, like and added, is kind of but we'll see. So final thoughts on it is decent. First episode, not too bad, not too good. So in the middle.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes from here. This is just the first episode. I mean, they gave us, quite a big slice. An hour and 20 minutes. That's pretty long to try to get you hooked in and have you coming back for more. But we already know the story. We know where it's gonna go from here. At least here's hoping. But we'll be back to do the remainder of the season. So we'll see what Neil has in store for us.
Yes. Neil. You know what? I'm not even going to say. Anyway, that's it from us. Any socials, FPS, or would you like to remain anonymous?
I'll remain anonymous, but I'll be back in future episodes, of course.
All right. Thank you guys for coming out. Like and subscribe. Let us know what you guys think about it. And yeah, we'll see you guys later. Peace.
Peace.
When you get mad, you say trust God, yelling you should come down from there. You should get down from here.